Okay, everybody, we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you for joining our virtual session. It's nice to be back with some virtual sessions. I know it's been a while since we've hosted one, so it's great to see everybody. So just to go over some quick housekeeping, any questions that you have, feel free to put them in the chat box and we'll be going through them after the discussion takes place. So all of your questions will get answered in a timely manner, but if you don't mind, just please leaving yourself on mute and adding those questions in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. So just give a little brief intro. We'll be hosting Nick Sharma and our Director of Customer Success, Eric, today. A little background on Nick. He is the CEO of Sharma Brands, which is a strategic initiatives firm working with a wide range of brands to help grow and scale revenue across digital platforms. Nick is one of Adweek's young and influential Forbes 30 Under 30 and an investor and advisor to some of the fastest growing brands in commerce. His work with hypergrowth brands like Hint Water, Pill Club, and Judy have resulted in new strategies, milestones, and millions of dollars in additional revenue for the companies. He has a keen eye for sociological advancements in culture and a data-driven mind for what works and what doesn't in a rapidly changing environment. Joining Nick, we have Eric Swanson, our Director of Customer Success at Refersion. Eric leads Refersion's customer success team. He's helped thousands of merchants build, manage, and grow their ambassador, influencer, and affiliate programs. He's an expert at making the complex look simple and guiding brands to successful strategies for performance marketing. So today we'll be discussing Black Friday basics, how to drive more holiday sales with affiliate marketing. So we can go ahead and start with the forecast for this holiday season as marketers are gearing up for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. But I guess before we talk about this upcoming season, I'd love to highlight some of the stats that Refersion did last year and just go over some basic Black Friday, Cyber Monday statistics. So merchants saw 2 million affiliate clicks, 200,000 affiliate conversions, $21 billion plus in conversion revenue, and $2.5 billion in affiliate commissions with 105 for AOV. So affiliate marketing definitely helps out with Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and can really help motivate your customers as well as your clients. So yeah, Nick, if you want to go ahead and take over.
Absolutely.
Just define maybe some different practices and go over the different strategies of performance marketing and what those programs look like.
Definitely. Well, I think to start, we should definitely just dive deep and quickly define what is different types of affiliate marketing. Specifically, Eric, maybe what you've seen on the side of Refersion and what Refersion, I guess, customers and brands are doing most with their programs, and how they're utilizing the technology in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So the nomenclature often varies depending on who's talking about it, and there's a lot of overlap, but broadly speaking, there are kind of three broad groups. You have ambassadors, influencers, and affiliates. Ambassadors are kind of what people think of as just people who love the brand. You could call them micro and nano influencers too. They tend to be your customers, just people who really want to talk about your product and evangelize across their communities. They tend not to have massive reach, but that passion really can make up for that. When you start talking about influencers, that's what kind of we traditionally think of. They can be still a nano and micro influencer. They could also be a super celebrity. So it's a real broad variation. They are the ones, of course, who can theoretically at least drive a ton of traffic just on their own. And one of them can make just a massive difference. And then when we get into kind of traditional affiliates, that's of course what people think about. Your publishers, your larger networks still can be a great valuable source. And really, I often say to merchants, there's no right and wrong way to do something. You can have all three of these groups in your program. They can all work successfully for you, but there's always probably one that's going to be your core focus. And how you engage with them really does matter. It does different, because what works for like a micro influencer, the level of engagement and communications cadence versus what might work for a publisher is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and have you seen, brands of different sizes leverage different pieces of those along their journey? Maybe, for example, when a brand launches, or maybe even doing sub seven-figure revenue, they focus on one over the other, and then they introduce the other.
Yeah, I think there's often a continuum. Now, some brands, even some larger brands, still build and grow huge, massive micro influencer programs. But there's micro influencers often a good starting point because it has a much lower barrier to entry. Because even if you just started last week and you're still getting established, you can find people who love your products. Hopefully, if that's why you're in business. Now,
Yeah.
when it comes to larger influencers, yeah, people can catch the lightning in the bottle. Maybe you used to be one of Oprah's favorite things. Now it's some celebrity tweets about you. But realistically, you tend to have to work your way up to that a little bit. We often find that brands will start with the micro influencer program, build out kind of consistently with the right practices from day one. And after a certain point, when they've kind of hit that critical mass, they're then at a point where now influencers start to return their calls. If they try to jump right in to work with the big guys right away, tends to be a lot of dead air there because people don't know who you are. They don't necessarily want to work with you. Now,
Sure.
we do work with some larger brands who maybe haven't dipped their feet into performance marketing, and now there it's a little different. Those larger publishers, those larger influencers might be interested in day one, and they do get their calls returned. So it's there's so many factors that go into it, but generally, like, micro influencers, I think, is a great strategy for a lot of businesses, no matter your size. And as you grow, you can then supplement it with the larger influencers and larger publishers as need be.
Totally. And I want to double click on the performance marketing in 1 second, but have you seen just really quickly, any best practices around what, like when I think of working with ambassadors, we send them to oftentimes the reversion sign up pages that we create. Are there any best practices that you have off the top of your head in terms of what gets a better conversion of somebody signing up? Or, how can somebody without really any much without creating something special for it, what could they do to really make an impact or give themselves the best chance to get an ambassador to sign up?
I think the key thing is telling people. I often say to it as like the elevator speech. You got to tell people why should they want to promote for you. You got to make it exciting. Now, initially, that can just be like telling people about your product, who you're looking for. Once getting people in, curating them, curation is key because even if you're a brand new company, you don't necessarily everybody to be out there working for you. You want to choose. You need to know that they're real people, that they are committed to your brand in some way, shape, or form. Once they're in the door, then it becomes how you incentivize them. With smaller and micro influencers, product can be a great way to incentivize. Now, certainly the people are probably familiar with the concept of product seeding, and certainly for larger influencers, publishers, that might make more sense. For your smaller influencers and micro influencers, you don't necessarily want to be sending out free product to everybody the minute they sign up, but building in kind of whether that's bonuses, whether that's tiered commissions, whether that's kind of other incentives that you can kind of build in later to have people, once they sign up, to stay engaged and excited. Really, different ways of engaging and different ways of building community are the keys to kind of take it from just kind of, okay, I signed up for this because it seemed interested, to, wow, I'm really committed about this. And these kind of best practices, I know we're talking a lot about like best practices that aren't necessarily Black Friday, but the thing is, I think Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all your promotions, they don't happen in a vacuum. If you don't have the right kind of best practices from the get-go, it's really hard to kind of create that goal where it's now, boom, we're having this sale. Because engagement with your affiliates, talking to them, making sure you're communicating regularly, building that sense of community, all of these, they're long-term plays that let you, a week before Black Friday, blast out this thing, and all of a sudden people are like, yes, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, I've noticed in my past working on the affiliate side that the more engagement you have with your ambassadors or with your affiliates, whether it's influencers, whether it's just huge fans and evangelists of your company, or whether it's more on the PR side, the more engagement you have, the more likely you are to get placement or to get called out or get that swipe up link that you want. And they truly feel a part of the brand when you're constantly communicating to them and telling them about offers and what's coming next, et cetera. So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. That sense of community is so important because in the end of the day, the goal is not just a list of names. We can all buy lists of names, buy scraped list of names. We'll probably get tons of emails a day offering us lists of names. Who cares? The goal is community and community and building that sense of community. A lot of our merchants have had success with not only email, which is a great way of communication, but SMS and texting them, building up Facebook groups, Discord channels, Slack channels to really build that sense of community.
Totally. And I'm trying to see if we have if we've got a poll feature here in Zoom. I'd love to do a poll before we jump into more performance marketing. So, really quickly, everybody should see a pop-up. Do you have a performance marketing strategy in place currently? Or are you maybe working on it? I'll give everybody a second to answer that question.
That's a mix of results.
Cool. Lots of answers coming in. So
yeah,
while these finish coming in, there's so many different approaches to performance marketing, whether it's, from a content heavy standpoint, whether it's, focused on on-site stuff, whether it's influencer stuff, ambassador stuff, affiliate stuff, how important is it, based on a brand's vertical and maybe a brand's target consumer, how important is it to alter the way that these programs are set up, specifically on the affiliate side, to have the most success? And also on top of that, if there's any just quick best practices or quick like tips, hacks, wins that you've seen that you could share too.
Yeah, I think one thing that kind of strikes me as I've worked with merchants across hundreds, if not thousands of different verticals, is the idea that it's very individual, that we have merchants in certain verticals, and one sort of promotion will work fantastic for them and not so great for another. So it's important, I think, to go back to that curation, understand how this person is going to promote for you, and use that to help understand later on to see what works. But more importantly, like for influencers and micro influencers, a lot of it comes down to authenticity. Now, whatever your product, they have to believe in it. And that really is the core when you're looking for who might be a good fit. Kind of think about your ideal customer and your own marketing persona and your own message and story, and find people who overlap with that. If you have a message that is core to your business, your influencers need to believe in that message. If they think it's a bunch of BS, they're not going to work for you. They're not going to do a good job. You need to find that authenticity, because that's how people can really talk about it in a way that is important, in a way that matters. Because again, the goal is not like to just have people out there posting a link without any context and decontextualized. No one's interested in that. We're interested in the people who are sharing opinions and advice that we actually want to hear. And that's who is going to be the successful performers for you. Now, when it's getting to like the larger publishers, influencers, they already have some of that cachet. So yes, that authenticity still matters to some degree, but there it often comes to the idea of better incentivizing, whether that's unique to them per deals, a bundle that's only available for if you click on this link, or a publisher, something that's unique to them, so that because they're not just Joe Schmo. People know who they are. They have some message they already stand for, and they can build on that. And again, it factors into, you want to make sure that there's that alignment. Someone who stands for something completely opposed to what your brand stands for, probably not someone you want to work with still, even if they are a super big celebrity. But you need to kind of give them that extra oof with the discount or with the unique special.
Totally. So going even deeper on the performance side, about 80% of people who just responded mentioned that they have either a performance marketing plan in place, or they have one that they're actively working on. So I just threw up a second poll. If you guys could fill out, the type of performance marketing that you're building, is it affiliate, influencer, ambassador, or is it more focused elsewhere? Maybe things like Facebook, TV, podcast, or even just kind of, smaller ways of doing it. And Eric, while these answers are coming in, I just want to remind everybody in the chat, if instead of sending your questions in the chat to the host and panelists, there should be a Q&A button at the bottom you can click. If you hit that makes sure that we see it at the end, and we won't be able to miss it.
Yeah. We definitely want to get to see all those.
Yeah, there's been some really good ones coming in. So I guess the million dollar question that everybody's come here for today, ahead of, you know, what I call the Super Bowl for our world, Black Friday, what can merchants do in order to get ready for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then obviously going into the holidays so that they are the best possible prepared when it comes to affiliate, ambassador, influencer, and really any kind of evangelizing type of channel?
Yeah. So there's a few different things. First, you got to start thinking about it early. If it's the day before Black Friday, you probably missed the boat because it really starts with that communication. Just like with any other big sale, any other big event, you want to start teasing it. You should be, again, we talked about those best practices where you're talking to your community well, you're already engaging with them, start building on that. Let them know what might, start dropping some hints about what might be coming, letting them know when the timetables are, when they can expect the deals to come out. If there are perhaps early birds, that might be like, start communicating that. Again, kind of lead up to it in your content for that. You're getting people excited. If you're having your normal like weekly communications, maybe towards that, as we head into now October and September, that becomes twice a week, or so you're starting to build up to that. Now, when you actually think about how to actually create those deals, incentivizing certain products, collections is a great way to kind of, again, find something special. On Black Friday, you're going to get a lot of traffic, a lot of regular people coming to your site. And one thing you don't want to do is have like the influencers maybe feel ignored because they don't think they're going to get credit for all this stuff. So giving them ideas where it's like, now this is going to be the product that's only available for influencers. These are going to be the deals that you guys can promote that maybe are unique to them, to again create that incentive. Because now with systems like Reversion, there are lots of different ways you can create attribution, links, codes, customer email, SKUs. Most programs have a mix of these, which works most of the year perfectly. But when it comes to Black Friday and other big sales, you're almost certainly going to have your Black Friday coupon code. That's probably going to be a pretty big discount. What you don't want to do is create a scenario where, oh, your affiliates only promote via codes, and now no one's going to use those codes. So it's really the time. And again, this comes to the communication where you're focusing on those other methods of attribution, links being first and foremost. When it comes to links, stressing best practices in terms of deep linking, talk about a particular product, link right to it, permalinks, things that basically create that sales incentive to encourage people to buy now is really what you want to encourage them to do. To the extent they can buy now the special deal, you're kind of doubling down on giving people a reason to click that link and buy from that affiliate and not just use the Black Friday coupon code. And when it comes to like kind of when you're communicating too, beyond just the normal incentivizations, make a game of it. It should be fun. This is something people should be looking forward to. Maybe there's a prize for the one who sells the most X. Maybe you're gamifying the whole thing. You have a leaderboard, you're tracking that. Certainly you don't want to share people's information with other people, but you can kind of make a contest of it. People like to be competitive, and not in a mean-spirited way, but just in a kind of a fun way where you can call out and recognize, and that can play double duty too, because maybe your top performers you showcase in another thing, or you interview them and talk about what worked for them and spread that information around your network and kind of build on those other resources for that. Maybe next year you have more top performers. And really but it really comes down to kind of preparing, communication, incentivizing. Those are your key things. Start early, think about what you want to do, use methods of attribution that aren't going to conflict with the broader sales, like links, and make it fun and engaging for your affiliates.
Totally. Yeah, the preparation, I think, is in my mind what takes the most time. It's really making sure that you're also going back and you're looking at your back end and understanding who are your top drivers and making sure that they feel, they have all the knowledge, they have all the upcoming offers, and they have all the best practices when it comes to messaging. One thing we found to be really successful is understanding on other performance channels what does really well, and then trying to carry that messaging over into affiliate.
Yep, and the historic data can be so important. I recently was working with one of our merchants who, and in addition to, as they're preparing for this Black Friday, we were looking at 2019 data, 2020 data, 2018 data, so they can see what worked before, what didn't work before, and then readjust to make sure that they're going to have the best Black Friday they can.
Totally. And so going deeper on the on communicating with these people, you know, how does just communicating more, increased communication with these ambassadors, you know, essentially lead to more affiliate driven sales? You know, if you were to essentially compare the cohort of affiliates you have that you speak with more often than the ones that you don't, you know, how does that matter?
Well, I think it goes back to the idea of engagement builds that sense of community, because your goal, now this is true, I think, no matter what kind of performance marketing you work with. Certainly, as you skew more towards micro and nano and ambassadors, it becomes even more critical. But the idea where you're not, what you're trying to engage with them is build the good habits on their own. Because what we see over and over again, and I think this is true no matter what, they have to have some skin in the game. They have to be willing to put a little time in, and it should be your job to make it as easy as possible for them to do what they should be doing, because you're kind of giving them maybe a content prompt or things to think about, whether that's a new product where they can talk about, where you're giving them kind of ideas and letting them run with it. It helps them think, because maybe they're interested but don't quite know what to say. Maybe they need that little push where you're not just telling them, oh, cut and paste this, because no one wants to see that. That kind of, maybe for the higher publishers where it's giving them kind of those cut and paste resources and assets can make sense. So that's a slightly different beast there. But when it comes to even influencers, it needs to be authentic, and that you're giving them kind of content, things to think about, products that are brand new, specials that are incoming. It can help them more or less help themselves, because you're never going to have 100% of your influencers always promoting, always pushing. You don't need to, though. You need to just find people who can take what you're giving them and turn that into something that's theirs and push it out. And one of the things I love about micro influencer programs is that slight small increases that set it. So say you have 1,000 micro influencers and you engage with them and you get half of them to have one more post, and one more sale, that's 500 extra sales a month. All of a sudden, the one little person selling that $30 order adds up and adds up and adds up. And being able to scale your messaging using a marketing automation tool, using your communications tool, can let you do that at scale fairly easily. You don't need to spend sitting down and send one-to-one messages. You can kind of talk about things and let them kind of grab it and make it their own.
Amazing. So I'd love to pull one more time, you know, based off the last question, you know, how often do you guys watching, how often do you communicate with a lot of your affiliates, your influencers, your ambassadors, your contacts on maybe the press side that handle the affiliate side? Feel free to answer that. So while these answers are getting put in, you know, going back and looking at the last few years of data, as you mentioned with your merchants, what have you seen that are the best type of promotions a brand should put in place specifically for Black Friday, Cyber Monday? And is there, along with that, is there anything they should be doing now in preparation for Black Friday being a big offer that maybe they you know, they weren't aware of before you brought it up?
Well, when it comes to kind of the big movers, I think anything you can do to kind of make things unique, but more importantly, like ideally raise that AOV. Is there a bundle you could put together that's, again, unique to an influencer or an ambassador? Depending, for a larger influencer, it could be a unique to them product. For a broader program, maybe it's a couple different influencer packages. Obviously, Boost AOV also gives something unique to buy. Before you even to get to that, though, it kind of the prep where not only do you need to be communicating, but you also need to be thinking about kind of the stuff none of us really like to think about: your logistic, your shipping, making sure everything's in place for that. If you're going to have a special product, do you have enough inventory? Do you have everything in place to do it? You're going to have a bundle mount, make sure everything, all that kind of stuff that maybe you as a marketer aren't necessarily thinking of it. Make sure you've engaged with the right team for that everybody's in sync. That's something that we have a lot of merchants who have to deal with on a routine basis. And again, it's when they're thinking through some of these ideas, they have to balance it with, okay, what's feasible? What, like, we want to build this package, we want to communicate out this package. Is it all in place? Can we run it now? Is it going to conflict with any other messaging that we're going out? So things like that, I think, are things that we might not always think about, but definitely have to kind of consider with these big sales, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're running out of a product, you can't fill your orders, and instead of creating a positive buzz, you've created a bunch of unsatisfied customers and unhappy affiliates.
Totally. Awesome. Well, Eric, it's been really fun chatting. I know we're getting to the end of our time here, and I'm sure people have got a hard stop at the end of the hour. Thank you for sharing all of the insights and learnings that you've seen across the last couple of years from Refersion, and I hope that everybody who is listening here got some good nuggets of advice or was able to write a couple things down that they can, take back and act on. If we didn't get to your question, feel free to shoot a note directly to Refersion, and they'll be able to answer it pretty quickly. But thank you, everybody, for joining.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I hope you found this helpful, and thank you, Nick.
Of course.